Now that we have the mechanical portion of the power steering system done, let's work on the hydraulic portion. I'm going to pull the power steering pump off the vehicle so I can change that fitting in the back of the pump. There's 3 bolts, 15 millimeter head that hold, actually there's 4, that hold this bracket to the front of the engine. There's 1 below the pump and then 3 right below the alternator. And then there's 1 that goes in from the side into the side of the block. Make sure your alternator's unplugged so we don't rip that out. I don't have my main power lead hooked up to the alternator yet, so I don't have to worry about that. So this is the kit that I got from BRP Hot Rods. Now I'm sure you can get this from just about anywhere, but since I ordered the rest of my stuff, I ordered this at the same time. It's got a few AN fittings, but then these fittings here are a little bit different. They're a compression fitting instead of the standard AN fitting that threads into the braided hose, and that's for this high pressure line. That there is an O-ring fitting. And then this guy here is what we're going to be putting into the pump. This is a different fitting instead of this pipe that comes out. I'm assuming that we're going to need that. Starting to wonder if I actually need this guy or not. I'm assuming I do since they sent it in the kit. They don't send instructions in the kit. I'm sure they have them on their website. That guy there probably would thread into here. No, it won't. That's a it's a different fitting. So maybe they send multiple options for different style pumps. So these might go into the power steering gear. This guy probably would thread into there, but then I would have to loop my hose before hooking it up to the gearbox. I'm going to go ahead and change out this valve, see if it's right. So looks like the same O-ring fitting there. I probably could just put the fitting into the back of the pump. Do I have enough clearance? Do I need that long extension? Let me pull the plugs out of the gearbox real quick. I'll look in there, see what fittings go in the gearbox. That'll kind of limit the rest of what we got here. Okay, so these 2 fittings are actually different sizes. Let me open one up. Let me open up the other one because that one just flew underneath the car. So this has a, it's like an inverted flare inside of there. This will thread into the gearbox. There's a small one, and then the one I just lost is a bigger one. So that takes those out of the situation. That's a fitting for, I'm just going to go ahead and open these up. So that's a regular number 6 AN fitting. This guy here is the compression style fitting for the PTFE nylon hose. So this is for our pressure line. So I got 2 of those. I only have 1 of the regular AN fittings for the non-high pressure line, and that's because the other end of that looks like it's just going to get hose clamped to this fitting over here on the pump. This one is a O-ring style fitting. Now they sent 2 different sizes of that. A small one and a big one. I wonder if some of the steering gears use that type of fitting. So they're just kind of covering all the bases. Now this one here looks like it would fit into the back of the pump. But I kind of want to pull the this fitting out. There's normally a spring that goes down below this for the pressure relief. So they may have machined this a little bit different or done something different to this to make it more suitable for this conversion. So let me pull that fitting out. What size is that? 27? No. 24? It's probably a standard size, but let's see what we got here. $27 will work because I don't feel like digging through my toolbox for different sizes. So there's probably a spring under here. Okay, there's the spring is on a plunger in there. So everything here kind of looks the same. Pretty much the same dimensions there. So I don't know if you use this one if you need to get further away from the pump. Since they included it in the kit, I'm going to go ahead and run this one. If it proves to be too long, then I'll swap it back out for the other one. For this next part, we're going to use the soft jaws in my vise. I took the tape off of one end of this. Some people wrap them with tape when they cut the line. And now we're going to push this line through that fitting. We may need to apply a little bit of lubricant here. Now that that's installed, we need to cut back a little bit of this protective coating. You can use a razor blade or a knife. You're probably going to dull a knife because there's a stainless steel braid behind this protective coating. So I just made a cut around it and then a slit down the side. And then we can just peel it around. And now we can see the braided line here. The PTFE nylon is inside of that. I'm just going to use this punch, stick it down in there, wiggle this line around. That's going to flare out this braided line just a little bit. Now we have to put this little collet over the nylon line. Get it started there. And then if you have a flat surface, I'm just going to use the top of the vise here. Push it down. And then if you look inside of there, the nylon should be up to the end of the collet, which it looks like it is. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to put this fitting into the line. And I'm going to clamp the this fitting in the vise. We're going to push down on the nut. And now we're going to tighten this nut down. Okay, and that should be it. Now, it doesn't really matter the position of this line because this end here can swivel. So we can position stuff once we get it in the vehicle. You don't want any of these lines to be a straight shot or pulled as tight as possible. You want to have some sort of forgiveness in there because this engine's going to be rocking up and down. When we accelerate, it'll move just a tiny bit. If your lines are too tight, then they end up just stretching and breaking. So once you get an orientation that you like, then we'll mark the line and then we'll cut it. Now some people will tape this and then use a cutoff wheel to cut the wire or the hose. I'm going to use some cable cutters. This is for electrical work, and I find that that gives a nice, clean, quick cut. It does smash it down a little bit, so I'm going to stick this punch in here. I'm just going to run it in, and that'll kind of round it back out. We're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to cut off a little bit of the material, but I want to get my nut on there first. Okay, I think we're ready to get this installed. I know it's a little hard to see in here since everything is black. It kind of all blends together. But when we're running it like this, you can bring focus to certain parts of the vehicle. Like we're bringing focus to the intake and the valve covers. We don't necessarily want to distract from that with all of the accessories. Now you can get this in a stainless steel braided line. I don't know if they make it in different colors or not, but it is available in the standard stainless steel. So now that we got that one on there, we can build the return line. Now, there's not a lot of room here, so we're going to have to overshoot and make a loop. So just like when we built the fuel lines and the transmission lines, this fitting here is just a regular AN fitting. I'm going to clamp this in the vise. And then we're going to thread the hose or push the hose into this fitting. Make sure all your wires and fibers end up in the right spot. Sometimes you can push them right in. Sometimes you got to twist them. That one pushed right in. Make sure you're all the way as far in the nut as you can get it. Pretty much any lubricant will work. And they make special wrenches for this. I'm just using a crescent or an adjustable jaw wrench, crescent wrench that has a smooth surface. The snap-on ones I have a knurled finish to them, and they tear up these fittings pretty good. If it's somewhere where no one's ever going to see it, I don't think it really matters. But stuff that's visible, you want to kind of keep it from getting marred up. So I'll mount this in the vehicle. We can figure out where we need to cut the other end off. So I think something like that will work. That's probably a little longer than I have to have, but I don't want the hose to be under strain and get kinked. So that there gives me a fairly good natural loop. The hose isn't going to kink. This hose is going to stay in a fairly good position. So I'll just mark it with my thumb and then we'll cut this. So once again, use the cable cutters. So now I'm just going to put that collar on here. I mean, really all you need is a hose clamp, but these just kind of dress it up a little bit. I guess that's all it is. It just sits on there. You don't want to push it all the way down because it's going to neck down this fitting and make it hard to get onto the pump. And actually, I might swell that out a little bit while we're here, because the pump is, the return line inlet on the pump is fairly good sized, and we're going to struggle to get that on there. And I'm just going to spin this hose around to where it sits in a natural position close to the frame rail. Somewhere about there. And now I can tighten up these nuts. This doesn't have to be super tight. You don't want to strip out the clamp and have to take it all apart, redo all that work we just did. You just have to have it tight enough that it's not going to pop off. It's not under a lot of pressure. So we're going to need a belt. Hopefully I got the right one. There's a few different options depending on which alternator you have, at least for the truck motor. But most of them came with the 105 amp alternator. You can use power steering fluid, or most of these will be able to operate on ATF as well. I prefer to pick the front wheels off the ground just so there's less load on the system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it up. If the pump starts whining, then I'm going to shut it off and check my fluid level. I prefer not to run the pump. Some people will let it whine and they'll just top off the fluid until it quits whining. It sounds like it's hard on the pump, so I prefer to shut them off as soon as it starts whining, get out, add some fluid, and then start it up again. I heard a little bit of a whine there, and looking in there, the fluid level is low, so I'm going to top it up, and then we'll fire it up, let it run a little bit longer, check for leaks, and then we'll cycle the wheel back and forth a few times to bleed the rest of the air out. Okay, all the hydraulic stuff is good. I don't see any leaks. Once I get it on the ground and we start moving it around a little bit, that's when the pressure will build up a little higher, and we'll be able to find out if there's any potential for leaks. But all in all, it went fairly easy. Everything sealed up good. The lines were easy to build. We had a project in recently where the customer had built their own lines and they used the wrong style fitting, and one of the hoses blew out. And we had the local parts store build us a line, and they had special power steering lines. I thought it was hydraulic line, but they said it was for power steering. And it was not nearly as flexible as this. It was just like a hydraulic line. It was really rigid. I didn't care for it much. It was very hard to work with. So I think in the future, I will go ahead and just, I won't order a kit like I did on this one, but I'll probably just order the fittings and some of the line and build my own. All the fittings are Fragola. That's what came in the kit. If that's how you pronounce that, I don't really know. That's how it's spelt. I'm assuming the line is from them as well. So I'll just source it on the internet next time I need to build something, and just order the pieces that I need. I did end up with a few extra pieces from this kit that I'll stash for the next project. Maybe they'll work on the next one. But everything seemed to work just fine here. I don't have any clearance issues. So that's going to wrap up this one. Power steering system is done. Next, to make this vehicle drivable, we need an accelerator pedal. I want to get that done before I put the brake booster back in. I'm trying to get everything done before putting that back in so I don't have to take it out again, especially because I want to bleed the brakes. So we need the accelerator cable done. The shift linkage, we need to button that up. I got to get this coil cover on and bolted down. And then we can put the brake booster on, bleed the brakes. Got to button up the drive line. And then it would at least be a drivable car. It wouldn't be complete, but we would be able to go test drive it and start working bugs out of stuff. So if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see the rest of the build, subscribe and click on the bell. Questions or comments, put those down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.